I was feeling pretty good. Oh wait, am I supposed to start this one? Oh, hey, you're listening to the Why Aren't You Famous podcast with me, Ellen Cherry, and my coffee drinking friend Andrew Grimm.
Hey there.
So today we are continuing to explore the question of why aren't we famous and why aren't other things that we think should be famous? Because we're just perplexed. Totally perplexed. So the topic of is okay, and so Andrew Grimm, you can't see this, but he's holding up his cat to the microphone.
Yeah.
This is going to be an all cat podcast.
Old Mig.
A cat cast.
Catcast. Pawcast.
A podcast. Oh, even more clever. Dang. So, on today's episode, we have both written essays about fame and artistic value.
Yeah. What does that mean, artistic value?
Well, I think when we were hastily defining it to each other on the street the other day, so we could write these essays, you said, does a work of art that becomes commercialized then lose its original artistic value?
I did say that, didn't I?
For example, if a Van Gogh painting, which is emotionally moving to you, then shows up on a mug, how do we feel? Does that diminish the original work? Ooh. And so I thought really hard about that, and I worked really hard on my essay. Should we listen to it?
We should. I should temper this with that's not at all what I wrote about.
That's okay.
It doesn't matter.
That's okay, because the essay that we're doing, the next essay, is also, I went way off topic.
Yeah, the history one. Right?
Yeah.
That's next in the series.
It was too broad, and I just felt like, I don't know. It was a weird day. But anyway, okay. I feel like I stayed close to this, but that's okay, because that's the point. We listen to each other's essays, and then we discuss.
We talk about it.
We talk about both the essay and the original topic matter.
That's true. I
think the essays will not take away from the original question.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, here we go. We're going to listen to Ellen Cherry now.
Wee! The first time that I saw a painting called The Vertigo of Eros by Roberto Matta, I walked right past it and into a room of Monet paintings. I think after that I wandered into a group of Jackson Pollocks and then circled back into the room with Matta's painting. In the secondary encounter, I got caught in a sticky visual web. The threads of the painting drew me closer to it. I stood in front of it and experienced it for probably, I would guess 45 minutes. I had lunch in the cafe there at the Modern Museum of Art in New York City, and I spent another hour drinking in other sculptures and paintings, but not really, because every moment I was longing to return to the Matta. Before I left the museum that day, I made a special trip back to the floor where the painting was, and again, I was trapped for 25 or 30 minutes. It was 2 years before I had a chance to be back in MoMA, and the very first thing that I did was to find The Vertigo of Eros and spend time with it. It hadn't lost any of its power to me, even though I hadn't seen it for 2 years. I fell once again into the inscape of the painting and was absorbed, immune to the other museum goers using their cell phones to take cheap pictures of priceless works of art all around me. I was interested in little else. I thought about that painting on the bus ride home. Nothing in the landscape could match it. I closed my eyes and thought about standing in front of it. When I woke up the next morning, I still thought about the colors, the lines, the hidden comments in the background, like seemingly inconsequential props on the set of a play. I looked up the painting on Google Images. All of the photographs were of something almost completely unrecognizable. They were garish and tiny. The powerful canvas I had stood in front of was 6 feet by 8 feet, and it was rich and dense. I know it's impossible, but that painting I stood in front of had a smell, like duff, the damp and ancient forest floor. In front of my computer, looking at the screen, I felt nothing, and I smelled nothing. Since then, I've understood that I will have to return to the real painting again and not see a digital version of it. It bothered me so much because suddenly I felt like something important had been ripped away. Now my memories of the painting were influenced by this miniature version I had let myself see. It hurt me in a way. I was glum and somber because something so big had been made so small.
Ooh.
It was very dramatic, man.
Yeah. Wow,
I totally brought us into a dramatic mood.
Yeah, but it's true. I was waiting I was waiting for you to talk about yeah, so I went down to the gift shop and I bought me a Vertigo of Arrows placemat because every time I eat my toast, I want to be staring at that thing, man.
Wait, are you making fun of somebody? Nobody specific, right?
Nobody is specific. It's
People with not that accent also buy mouse pads with priceless works of art on them and T-shirts and all manner of things that are, made from petrochemicals and are miniature, not correctly colorized versions of these paintings. I really thought about that. I mean, I know I sounded really dramatic, but that painting, I think about that painting a lot. And I am upset that I allowed myself to see a version of it that isn't true.
Yeah. I'm going to check it out on my phone. I'll probably get the same experience when I...
No.
Vertigo.
Don't.
Arrows. I'm sorry, girl. I'm going there. Vertigo.
So wait, talk to me about the essay and what you thought.
Well, what I thought, it's a testimony to that idea of the experience. You have to experience art. You have to experience I got in a semi argument with somebody about, I guess maybe it was the Mona Lisa or something or whatever, and this guy was kind of talking down to me about it, like, well, you'll never understand unless you actually see it. I was like, okay, well, let me just go ahead and spend all my money and fly over and check it out.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's not that I wouldn't appreciate the opportunity to see it. Of course I would, but the opportunity may be rare.
That's true, and I am willing to guess that the internet as a great equalizer of that people are able to experience facsimiles of great works of art without having access. It gives people who normally would not have access because the MoMA is a $25 or $35 ticket. You have to be in New York.
I can't afford that.
It's not like Baltimore's museums, which most of them are free, which truly is that the access then involves, do you have the time, energy, and transportation to get there?
And they're all packed anyhow.
What, the museums?
Yeah. In Baltimore?
Yeah,
the
right.
lines are around the corner.
It's amazing how many people are taking advantage of our free art museums. No, I agree. I think that there's probably a little bit of snobbery in what I'm saying that...
I'm not saying you're snobbery. I'm
No.
just, you have the opportunity to see it.
Yeah.
And, what I'm saying is...
I have the privilege and the luxury to say it. That's what I'd like to say.
Well, that is a privilege and is a luxury, but it's also, that's the point of the art. The point of the art is to go see it.
Yeah.
And so I completely I completely agree with those types of things. It's just a matter of if you're going to experience, you have to go and experience. I understand that if I don't see whatever, a Matisse exhibit, but I have a Matisse coffee mug, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
And I get that. And that's kind of maybe part of the argument that we can have is that the art is the art. The artifact that you take away from it is a reminder, or maybe it says something about you more than it says something about the art. Because you're buying, when you go to the gift shop and you buy, the arrows, the Vertigo of Arrows, baby doll tee. Yeah. Right.
Or scarf.
Thong.
Of course I would buy the Vertigo of Arrows thong.
Thong. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
well, this brings up a point that I think relates to our overarching concept of why aren't you famous, and what does commercialization of artwork have to do with fame? I think that they're intimately tied, and you and I both have colleagues that are great merchandisers.
Oh yeah.
That are really good at selling the merch side, and not necessarily the CDs, but the merchandise that they create, and are very creative doing it. And I am always impressed by that. However, I don't choose to spend my time thinking about it too much, and much to the detriment of my finances. I've not sold my own personal Vertigo of Arrows's thongs. Thong to thong.
Thong to thong. Yeah, you're a badonka thong.
My badonka I'm
well,
so glad that a conversation about Roberto Mata has resulted in. I did just distort the mic, I think, by saying that.
I heard you.
Sorry, everyone.
Wow, I'm gonna turn your gain down, girl.
Turn my gain down.
To a Trace Atkins song. Honky tonk. Well, that's somebody else. Doesn't somebody else do the Donka Donk song?
I don't know.
Is that somebody else?
Get closer to your mic. Okay, so we
Somebody
should
else
listen
did.
to your essay because I actually see it coming up in the queue.
Oh, it's getting there. All right, and then there's more to be. I like this topic. This is a fun topic to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, maybe it's meaning, maybe it's whatever. So okay, here comes my essay. Enjoy. The artist is the creator of beautiful things. To reveal art and conceal the artist is art's aim. The critic is he who can translate into another manner or a new material his impression of beautiful things. The highest as the lowest form of criticism is a mode of autobiography. Those who find ugly meanings in beautiful things are corrupt without being charming. This is a fault. Those who find beautiful meanings in beautiful things are the cultivated. For these, there is hope. They are the elect, to whom beautiful things mean only beauty. There is no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written. That is all. The 19th century dislike of realism is the rage of Caliban seeing his own face in a glass. The 19th century dislike of romanticism is the rage of Caliban not seeing his own face in a glass. The moral life of man forms part of the subject matter of the artist, but the morality of art consists in the perfect use of an imperfect medium. No artist desires to prove anything. Even things that are true can be proved. From the point of view of form, the type of all arts is the art of the musician. From the point of view of feeling, the actor's craft is the type. All art is at once surface and symbol. Those who go beneath the surface do so at their peril. Those who read the symbol do so at their peril. It is the spectator and not life that art really mirrors. Diversity of opinion about a work of art shows that the work is new, complex, and vital. We can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely. All art is quite useless. Preface to Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Although Oscar Wilde says that art is useless, he doesn't say it's not without value. Value is absolutely subjective, unless it's a need. We need air, water, food, and shelter. And when it comes to air and water, two resources that will succumb to man's wasteful nature in the near future, I'm sure there's some enterprising young douchebag ghoul Martin Shkreli-like bastard who will figure out a way to package air, commodify it, and sell it at the top dollar, no doubt becoming rich, but at all costs, including his own soul. But is artistic value different? Maybe. The difference, I think, is in the need for art. In particular, music. Scrolling through Facebook, you'll find this winking, smiling emoji giving a thumbs up, and then it says, "Thank a musician." Without music, your life would suck. Why not pay the musician? Support them by bringing people to a show. Why not shut the fuck up about whatever bullshit you're talking about 2 feet from the stage while I'm playing a song? Why not? Well, because apparently there is no dearth of musicians in music. Maybe a scarcity of talent, but not material, and people have a hard time distinguishing between the two. When there is a surplus, we tend to not think about it. In fact, the only people who think about that are the musicians themselves. They are the ones who have to create the value for themselves and not necessarily for others. It takes a hell of a lot of will to push back the ego and create art, then take the risk of being vulnerable in a performance that no one will ever hear but yourself. But that's the deal. Being Caliban and looking into the mirror and seeing his own reflection, or being Caliban and looking in the mirror and not seeing his own reflection, raging all the same, but there's no audience. Isn't the fact that he's raging at all the important part? That's the value, the confrontation or non-confrontation, the resolution. It's important, it's valuable, because it's truth. And no matter what anybody tells you these days, the truth is valuable. Mark Mulcahy said it best when he said, "When I started writing songs, I was trying to save the world. I learned very quickly that I couldn't do that. So instead, I tried to save myself to prove to others that it could be done."
That was a lot of words. That was a lot of words. Interesting to quote one of my favorite authors, primarily because of his humor, Oscar Wilde.
Mm-hmm.
My first impressions on hearing it are about the word need, because you talk about the need for air, water, food, and I think that there are other needs that we don't actually. People do die. Like supposedly you can live without affection in your life, and babies who don't get touched and things like that. But it does. Is that really, being alive? It affects their being aliveness, I think, because that is also a need, and that is I suppose, higher on the pyramid of needs, in terms of like having to be fed and sheltered. But I really agree strongly with your point that because of the amount of content that exists, there's no silent place that people are coming from where when they hear music again, that need is finally being met, because I don't know, we're in a warped time because there's no silence. You are hearing music everywhere you go, frequently like wallpaper, and so there's no deficit. Amy Mann has a great quote in one of her songs that she says, something to the effect of creating want by creating desire, basically by creating lack. I turn my back to you and to show you that I don't need it, basically, so that you will desire me more. And I have found in my life that is even more depressing, and operating from a state of abundance and having enough of things actually does propel me further. Having enough food, having enough shelter, having enough, just like anybody, that it's not the supply and demand part of it. But the question here is having enough good of that.
Right.
Good food, good sleep, good water, good affection, good music, good writing, good art. And that's the deficit that we experience.
Sure. Yeah, when I was writing that part about, I was thinking about the difference between talent and just going out and doing stuff. And by no means do I think that people who, play in cover bands or do the bar scene aren't talented. I'm sure there's talent there, but
and we both got some of our experiences, and I think from that,
I still play bars.
Yeah,
I'm still out there.
I played one a month ago.
and it's like, you're kind of like, depending on the situation, it's either really fun or, but
the seventh level of hell.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like, it's the circle of total bastards, you're like, what am I doing here? And people, sometimes people like really dig, you playing your original stuff. And then other people are like, I need to hear Wagon Wheel. I need it right now.
You are obsessed with that song.
I am not obsessed with that song. I'm obsessed with the request of that song. The song itself is inconsequential to me.
I feel like every time I see you, we're talking about that
Wagon Wheel.
song.
Yeah, man. Rock me, mama, like
Don't
a wagon
sing it right now
wheel.
because I've avoided
Rock
it
me,
for a long
baby,
time.
till I can't ever
Back
feel.
to your point.
Hey.
Back to your point. And how it relates to the artistic value, because you did veer off quite from the topic we discussed.
Well, because the artistic value is
I guess maybe not
sort of, but like I think the value is the value that you place in it, and not it's not about the listener.
Okay.
You know, because I want it to be. I want to share it with the listener, and there is a certain sense of validation that I think everybody wants to feel from putting that song out there or whatever,
And getting the response, admiration, etc.
You know, that's always the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And that's a completely backwards, upside down bullshit way of looking at it, because, you know, I'm sorry, but what is it, 500,000 or 5 million or whatever it is, Elvis fans can't be wrong. They can totally be wrong. They can be absolutely, completely, totally 100% wrong. Number one selling car in 1987, Ford fucking Escort. What an automobile. It must, you know what? That must have been the Rolls Royce of 1987.
1987 was definitely not the Rolls Royce year of the 80s, though. That's maybe more the issue. Because, like, who thinks about 1987?
I do. All the time. I was a freshman in high school. Actually, I was, well, it depends. 87. Spring of 87, I was still a freshman. 87 in the fall, I was a sophomore. A man of the world.
Where was I in 87?
Awkward, wearing a turtleneck.
That time hasn't ended at all. I'm not wearing a turtleneck, listeners. I'm wearing a button-down shirt, buttoned all the way to the top for modesty.
Wow. I requested her to wear the shirt like that because I was like, you know, Ellen Cherry, stop. You're like a sister.
Right.
You're like a sister.
Can't be looking at you across this room.
No.
Anyway, we are rambling and rambling.
We are not rambling. We're having a good time. You know, just go with the flow.
Okay.
And, so when we, you know, we had a conversation last week where you were a little bit concerned about, like, well, when we do the podcast, are we just navel gazing? At like, what point does this just become more self-absorbed with our own crap? I am concerned about that,
yeah. So I appreciate anyone who's still listening at this point. Thank you.
Because we need you, listener.
We do. We love you.
We need you. That's. She's kissing her own microphone.
Anyway, back to the conversation we were having last week, where I was worried about it being too navel-gazy.
But the whole idea is for us to kind of talk about these ideas, and we're having a conversation, and we can only have the conversation because we've had the experience. Well, other people can have the conversation too, but our conversation is based on our own personal experiences about how these things happen. So, you know, it's kind of like part of the deal. I don't think we should be really careful about, you know, hurting people's feelings necessarily, but we should be nice, because you should always be nice.
Yeah.
But until it's time to not be nice. Sometimes
it's time to be sharks in the tank.
Oh, piranhas in the tank.
When it's happening in like 10 years, when I'm done with this shit.
Oh, yeah. And I have my own podcast called Bad Mouthing Ellen Cherry. Let me tell you about that buttoned up shirt she was wearing. My goodness, wearing white after Labor Day?
Oh, my God.
Like, for sure. Yeah. Because, you know, I'm a fashion maven myself.
Yes. It's obvious today.
Yes, my PG&E hat. And, yeah, it's ridiculous. But artistic value, if we go back to the point, like, and I think the commercialism, as soon as you slap it on a mug, and you think about this, like, is your live performance art, or is it just a calling card for someone to buy a CD or a download card, or is the download itself art, or are they both art? You know, I guess depending on how much time you put into the recording or how much time you put in the rehearsal of your performance. You know, I have travel mugs that I'm trying to sell. I have 2 freaking travel mugs I'm trying to sell. They have nothing to do with anything that I've ever done. It's just a repurposed gift from an ex-relative-in-law. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, sorry for anybody who... I'm sure none of them are listening to this podcast.
Wait, it's just 2 travel mugs?
Yeah, I got it was like
I'll buy one.
You could print out the they printed out like album covers.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like one of those, like, you can customize
Gotcha.
what's in there. And so I put a download card in it. I was just trying to get rid of a download card.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that sad that this is where I am? I'm just trying to get rid of a download card. I could just throw them in the sewer. You know, I could just shred them. Set them on fire. I can use them as kindling. You know, what does it
In
matter?
your non-existent fireplace.
Yes.
Well, okay, so this is the thing that I feel like was the focus of the original question, which we both approached differently, and that's good. I think it is good.
Yeah.
That when we put out albums with artwork on them, and we work in studios with fine monitoring systems and
Expensive microphones. Preamps and really talented engineers.
And exactly. And people working hard all through the process. And then you have this big, beautiful sound that is, basically gets shrunk down to the cover of a mug. Although, where am I going with that? Because that's not actually true. I'm commenting on the listening environment, which isn't the same. That's a different conversation. But
well, aren't you talking about like if let me hijack?
Like if this beautiful song you wrote, the first 4 bars of it are then featured in a commercial promoting something.
Right. Does that take away from it?
Yeah. Like, does it take away from the original song? Because
it's no longer the song; it's a commercial.
Yeah. And the selling part of it.
How much?
I know.
How much are you going to give? Jason Butcher's was just he was on a Toyota commercial.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, I don't know how much he got paid. I got to ask him. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. Jason Butcher plays in a band called Among Wolves.
Yeah.
By the way.
They're great.
They're a great band.
Maybe we'll be featuring one of their songs.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, but they're like my competition.
Oh, we're not graciously featuring people that we want to take down.
I'm just kidding. They're not my competition.
They're not even in your galaxy.
They are not, man. I tell you what, those dudes. They're my guys. They're good. I like those guys. I've always liked those guys.
Backtrack.
Yep. Don't listen to this podcast.
Play nice.
No, there's a podcast where the Society Fringe podcast. I don't know if you ever listened to it, but it's the guys who were in Circle 9. There's 2 of them, Dave Linitude and Brian Lutz. And they're really entertaining. Dave says some wildly inappropriate things from time to time, but it's really kind of funny podcast to listen to. And they're doing this like 80s song rock opera thing. And Dave Linitude's got all these ideas. It's crazy. But during the podcast, they'll talk about people, and then they talk about Baltimore, and then they'll bring me up a whole bunch of times. What's really funny is like Brian Lutz is always like yeah, Andy Grimm opened that show. Yeah, he's playing acoustic. I don't know. I just really don't like it when he plays acoustic. And then there's this pause, and he goes, "Sorry, Andrew, if you're listening."
And you're like, "I am listening, you dick."
It's I'm like, well, I don't get mad about that, so I don't care. That's fine.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Think about the favoritist song, or like
favoritist, yes.
Your favoritist song of your own that you wrote.
Uh-huh.
And somebody coming along and saying, I have this product and I want to use the riff for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably stop.
I'm stopping.
Through your travels, you have played that song for 10,000 people. 10,000 people have heard it and experienced its beauty, and you have experienced its beauty in front of them.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden there's the promise of now 1 million people hearing your song, but it's associated with, I don't know, a product that you're not really necessarily that proud of contributing to. Would you do it?
No, I wouldn't do it. If it's a product I'm neutral about, like I'll be a gold digger for a second, and I mean straight up, like if it was a product that was not detrimental to the world, and they offered me a whole bunch of money where I am in my career, hell yeah, I'd take it.
So
because I can pay, you know what, that will allow me the space and the time and the cushion. The financial cushion to pursue other things.
Yeah, or to continue pursuing what you're doing.
Now, if I'm like if I had 1,000 subscribers to my podcast or to my Bandcamp page, hint.
Bandcamp or junestar.bandcamp.com.
That's right, $5 a month. You get over 300 songs for $5 a month.
Dang, that's so good.
Yeah, exclusive content only you can listen to. Will never be on a record. Anyhow. But if I was sustained by that, I would probably think twice about licensing it if it's a song that I really, really loved. And because I mean, I care about these songs, but I'm also not in that position right now.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
So it's situational ethics. Then you got to make a decision when it happens.
it's when and it's what the product is.
So
like
you
if
may
it's like,
or may not be getting a call from North Korea to use your song as a soundtrack for when they finally release their nuclear weapons.
yeah, they're gonna license Without You now.
Because I feel like that's probably the only thing I would object to.
Well, and if Bushmaster rifles,
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
right? Donald Trump victory lap, stump speech.
Could somebody make a Donald Trump tampon? Because I would totally put my face on that box. If you know what I mean by box. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's got this blonde texture to it. And it's orange, and yeah, that's gross. But it has an extra long string for the tie, right? Is this what you?
It's a red string.
I really apologize to everybody who's listening to this now.
Sorry, Mom.
Well, no, let's not be apologetic. Who cares? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
I agree. And it's supposed to be a funny conversation, an interesting point of conversation.
We're just finally becoming interesting.
And this one has been so weird and meandery and away from topic. So let's go back to our one of
Artistic
our segments.
Value.
Well,
Okay.
no,
Oh, no,
like
segment.
I feel
Okay.
like we've talked about that
All right,
in a lot of different
we've gone far
ways.
enough.
And people can tell us that we haven't, and that's fine. Whatever. We're not going to read your comments. I'm just, whoa. Oh, no. Are you all right?
Yeah.
Are you all
We
right?
basically just told off the listeners.
I'm sorry,
It's like,
listeners.
Yeah, we don't care. We don't care about what you got to say.
I will read them as punishment, as penance, as
As her digital hair shirt.
I will read your comments and love them. This morning on NPR on the way to see you, they were trying to get finished with a little fundraising segment, and somebody sneezed right before they went to commercial.
Oh,
It was
no.
so cute. I was just like, oh, real people.
Oh, they could have gotten an NPR tissue out of the NPR tote.
Right, exactly.
Ooh,
So,
June Star tote bags. That's the answer to all
no,
my problems.
Thongs. I want a June Star thong,
June Star thong.
so you can be as close to me as possible.
Oh, okay, so this is funny. Okay, well, whatever. We're way off topic, and it doesn't matter anymore. So, this is September 12th, or September 13th,
Yes.
when we're recording this. So you guys are listening in October right now, but in September, June Star played the WTMD First Thursday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm still wearing the VIP bracelet.
That's right. We forgot to talk about your sparkly bracelet.
Well, because it's artistic value. Like me as an artist, rarely am I valued by the venue.
Yeah.
You get these shows and it's like the green room.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's a green. Oh, ooh, you get treated well or whatever.
It's like a nice little bump.
And I will not take this VIP bracelet off for a long time because it just reminds me for one glorious afternoon, I was able to walk in and out of the VIP and the green room area free.
You had the badge. You had the backstage pass.
I had a badge. I had a bracelet. And I had a suede jacket that I was wearing.
People with walkie-talkies were like, artist entering.
That's right.
Oh, you're allowed. Come in.
Come
No,
on in,
you
come on in.
not.
Uh-huh.
No bracelet.
Now I will say that all the other bands had their own cooler, and of course June Star didn't. And if you look at the poster, June Star has been left off the poster. But
TMD, what the?
well, we were a late edition.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's always nice to play, and
I think you've also done it a couple of times, haven't? Isn't this like your second or third First Thursdays?
This is our second First Thursday.
I've only got asked once.
The first First Thursday, or whatever. Yeah, first Thursday we did was
the penultimate
that
First Thursday.
That was in 2004, I think.
Yeah. Who can even remember
when it was
that
at
far?
the when it was at the Monument.
Yeah.
And we opened for Ari Hest.
Oh, cool. I was at that show.
Yeah.
I saw you play at that show.
That was
I thought it was very good.
well, that was very kind of you to say that. There were some issues.
There always are.
But I wear this bracelet proudly because it's like that, that reminder that while I'm taking out the trash, I was once a VIP.
Very insignificant. I mean, important person.
I was very idiotic. No, voluptuously.
Ooh, I like the word voluptuous.
Oh yeah. Well, anybody likes the vertigo of Eros is all about voluptuousness.
The vertigo of Eros.
And the boudoir becomes the voluptuary. His little
Ooh,
Simpsons
is
reference.
voluptuary a word?
Yeah.
Voluptuary.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're going to love my next essay. because my essay has to do with words.
Oh,
Yeah.
which apparently I have a lot of.
Yes, you do. So the next segment, go ahead.
The next segment is the tour.
Yes, right? And then we feature the thing we
Then we're
going
to feature the music. And
Yeah.
I know who we're going to feature.
Okay.
I got it in my head.
Great, groovy.
I'm all about it.
So where are we going on the next part of the tour?
So we start Pittsburgh, then Columbus, and then maybe Cleveland or something like that. But then I was thinking Detroit.
Detroit, yeah.
And the great thing about Detroit and the great thing about the music of this week.
The barbecue, slow barbecue. Oh, yes.
That Detroit? Barbecue in Detroit?
Slow's barbecue.
Slow's barbecue? I don't think I've ever been there.
I've been there twice because of puppets. Yes, listener.
Of course.
I've been there. I've been to this one barbecue joint because of puppets.
Not because it was good, but because the puppets
made me go to Slow's barbecue.
Jerry, go to Slow's barbecue.
Yeah, like all freaking puppets sound like that. You are such a puppetist.
It has such puppism.
That is puppetism.
Puppist.
Puppetism. No, you know that I make part of my living making music with puppeteers.
I'm glad you didn't say with puppets.
And I play music for puppet shows, and we go to the Detroit Institute of the Arts, which is Detroit, DIA, Institute of Art. And it is a beautiful art museum. And there's a huge, I'm not going to say it. There's an amazingly big, tremendous Diego Rivera fresco painting around this one marble room, and I sit for hours. It's wonderful.
Huh?
And they have great stuff. Anyway, but you go down the street and you go to, I'm pretty sure it's called Slow's Barbecue.
No, we'll have to find out.
We're going to Detroit.
We're gonna go to Detroit, and Detroit is Detroit gets a lot of flack, I guess, or whatever. And Michigan, I mean, they have their problems and stuff like that. But I've had nothing but fun and good times in Detroit. I really like Detroit a lot.
They have an incredible art scene, incredible people.
Yep, and
I'm totally starting to sound like the president.
And the guy who, I mean, look at the crowds, the size of the crowds.
The size of the crowds of people who have lost their homes because of the downturn in the economy.
I'm going to move on them like a bitch.
God, Jesus.
Oh, God, Jesus.
Oh, save us all.
I don't know. You got to save yourself, girl. But Don Dupree is the person that we're going to help with booking the show in Detroit.
Nice. Hello, Don.
And you can call him Dupe.
Dupe.
He's got a band, Dupe and the Inside Outlaws.
Oh, cool. What a cool name.
And he rents out a room to Sturgill Simpson's keyboard player.
Oh, cool.
Which is pretty cool. But he's a really great guy. He's a great songwriter.
We're basically like 13 Kevin Bacons from fame right there.
We're pretty close. We're pretty close. You know what I'm saying? So we...
Can I confess something? That like every time I hear the name Sturgill Simpson, I think of the fish sturgeon.
Sturgeon Simpson. Sturgeon.
Like I just think like, are you sure, Sturgill, that your name isn't Sturgeon?
Sturgill. That sounds like, yeah. I guess, yeah.
Right? Anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say? Don Dupree, Sturgill Simpson, Kevin Bacon.
Right.
It's all coming together.
It's all coming together. And you keep bumping your mic.
I know. Donk-a-donk, ba-donk-donk.
And now it's full circle.
Bonk, bonk-a-donk-a-donk-donk. Sorry.
So anyhow, but Dupe has been helping me out with shows there in Detroit, and he's a really great guy. And so we're gonna listen to one of his songs.
Oh, cool.
And then we'll chat about it.
Nice.
Real quick.
Let's listen. This is Don Dupree.
Don Dupree. Well, Dupe and the Inside Outlaws.
Dupe and the Inside Outlaws with their track.
To be named in a minute.
Okay.
Well, we're really organized here at the Ellen
Just
Cherry
today.
Ingram compound. Okay, all right, gosh.
I had on here back in '89, February 28th. They put me on that old midnight shift. It became the job that I love to hate. But I found a girl and we said our vows. We tried for a kid and we ended up with two. And now it seems like they're shutting this town down. So tell me, what am I supposed to do? And what am I supposed to do? Lord, tell me, way back in 33. You sold a car just to keep your house. It's getting hard to hold on to anything. And the union boys, yeah, they made some noise, but in the end they had to feed their families too. And union dues, they can't help me now. So tell me, what am I supposed to do? And what am I supposed to do? Lord, tell me, what am I supposed to do? 'Cause this is all I have ever known. So tell me, what am I supposed to do? Slowly dies, and I wonder about my fate. The government check's gonna stop coming soon. No more help from the state. And I'm 45 and I got no place to hide, and I got nothing left to lose. This is what I get after all that I gave. So tell me, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Lord, tell me, what am I supposed to do? 'Cause this is all I have ever known. So tell me, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Lord, tell me, what am I supposed to do? 'Cause this is all I have ever known. So tell me, what am I supposed to do?
All right, Don Dupree and the Inside Outlaws.
I liked it.
Oh, did you?
I did.
I don't know. You were like looking at your phone the entire time.
Not the entire time, just part of the time. Stopped and listened.
Yeah. What I really like about Dupe is, he's. I don't want this to sound like, I guess, overly critical in a negative sense, but he's very consistent in the fact that he's writing about kind of Detroit, and he lives in River Rouge, which is a neighborhood. I want to say that's south of Detroit. I could be wrong. Sorry, Dupe, if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. But he lives in this kind of like small port neighborhood that used to.
Well, he references in the song like his family came there like 3 generations before.
Yeah, 1933.
Yeah.
And this whole thing like is all about like the decaying city, and a lot of it, like even just listening to that, I think about all the times that I've stayed with Duke probably about 5 or 6 times now, and every time like he takes me to a new part of town that is kind of falling apart but is still home. And we went to this diner that it was this got some eggs and some bacon and whatever. It was a ton of food, and like the bill was like $4.20. It was ridiculous. Or I go to a Mexican place, but wherever you go, everybody knows Don. Everybody knows him, and he knows everybody, and it's kind of this kind of cool thing. So a lot of his songs kind of revolve around that type of idea. It's kind of like he is like the kind of like Bruce Springsteen of this Detroit type of scene, except he's not a billionaire. He's Dupe.
I also think that I can hear why his sound appeals to you because of your love of Tom Petty. Like I feel like the overall vibe of his voice is very Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like, and the structure of the song too, and like the subject matter though, however, is much more Springsteen.
Yeah, working man.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And I appreciate the idea of putting personal history and generalized city history into songs because, like, that's my jam.
That's my jam.
I can see why you would want that to be famous.
Oh yeah,
that song would serve people a lot better than like Red Solo Cup, whoever.
Red Solo. That's Toby Keith.
Don't.
Red Solo Cup.
Who shall not be named on this podcast.
I fill you up. Let's have a party.
Okay, don't destroy that beautiful moment we just had.
Lady
with
Liberty is shaking her fist. We'll put a boot up your ass, and it goes like this.
Are those the words?
That's the lyrics to The Angry American. That's
What?
right after 9/11 came out.
Is that a He Who Shall Not Be Named song?
Yeah, it is. It is. You keep talking. I'm gonna look up the lyrics.
No, don't.
No, they're terrible.
But-
my God.
But
My
if
God.
you sang it in that Crash Test Dummies type of voice, if you did that voice for that song, it might actually be interesting. But I want to talk about the dupe and
Yeah,
Detroit.
keep talking about the dupe. That's fine. I can multitask.
Because we live in Baltimore, and we both have experienced some of being in Detroit and some time being in Detroit. And I think your scope of the city has been probably a bit wider than mine, and I'm looking forward to exploring more with the dupe in March of 2018.
Yep, he doesn't know about it yet, but he'll find out.
Oh, we're
He's
coming.
good. He's good in a pinch.
And that's one of the things that's so enjoyable about putting these things together, and also putting this sort of piecemeal patchwork type of life together, is that you have friends that you may not have talked to or seen in a year, but the second that we contact them, there's the camaraderie of the shared struggle.
Sure.
And it's really, really nice. So like that's the benefit, I think, of having this sort of life, is that we all know that we're freaking busy all the time trying to push these, like in a Sisyphean effort to push these little boulders that we have up a hill, and everyone's struggling with that. And it's wonderful to have sort of comrades in arms about all over the world.
We're like a million miniature syphilises.
I thought you were going to say syphilises.
Well, that would be Baltimore. We got a lot of syphilis.
Oh, on the way here, I heard.
On the way here, you picked up some syphilis.
I picked up some syphilis and my gun.
And my gun.
And some heroin.
And a rat.
And of course, without Baltimore, the rats. No, that we, the NPR broadcaster this morning, I think it was an accident that he sounded this excited, but he was like, Baltimore just broke another record for homicides, number of homicides in the year. And I was like,
Yes.
Don't be so enthusiastic sounding.
We're having a big party about it later.
Oh, God. Anyway.
Oh, man. We're going to be firing guns in the air.
Don't look at the lyrics of that terrible song.
You got to hear it. It's. I mean,
I don't gotta
hey,
hear it.
Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list. And the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist. And the eagle will fly, man. It's going to be hell when you hear Mother Freedom start ringing her bell. And it feels like the whole wide world is raining down on you. Brought to you courtesy by the red,
white,
and blue.
Okay, so two things in those lyrics.
Yes.
She doesn't have hands for a fist, because in one, she's holding... What is the book that she's holding?
I think it's the Book of Mormon.
But I know for sure in the right hand, she's holding the Torch of Liberty.
Yeah, the torch of scourges.
Right? And like...
Scourgel
So
Simpson.
she doesn't have time to be making any kind of fist to put
No,
up
she's
somebody's...
gonna light that. She's lighting the fuse of 1,000 cannons that will bombard our enemies and
Or
kill
just
them
like
all.
the Cuyahoga River. She's just putting it down into the water and setting that on fire. Because
Is it Cuyahoga or is it Cuyahoga? I think it's Cuyahoga.
Whatever. I only got that information from REM.
REM. And REM mispronounced it.
Well, that's what I'm going with. The second thing is
Once again, the white man.
Well, you're distracting me, and I forgot what the second thing was. Because
We're settling into our roles in the podcast.
What were the lyrics again about?
Oh, you want more Toby
After
Keith
the
lyrics?
fist.
Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist, and the eagle will fly, man. It's gonna be hell when you hear Mother Freedom start ringing her bell.
Oh, ringing her bell. Because whenever anyone says ring her bell, I think of that disco song that's about...
Her bell.
It's Ring My
Blondie.
Bell.
Isn't it Blondie?
No, it's not Blondie. Ring my bell, ring my bell, which I'm pretty sure is about clitoral orgasm. It totally is. Ring
Something
my
that Toby Keith knows nothing about.
bell. I just don't really want to entrust that type of personality with clitoral orgasms. So there you go. So this is
What a
gonna,
way to end.
This is gonna end our because really that's when it should end. When we
it's a
finally
neat-
get to the clitoral orgasm, that's when it ends.
That's what it's, yeah. You know, what was that? That was that movie Adam Baldwin was in called Providence, where he gives his son advice about sex. He goes, sex is like Chinese food. It's not over until you both get your cookies. That was his advice. Anita Ward was the Ring My Bell.
Oh, you looked it up.
I did look it up. I mean, yeah, why not? I got to.
She's totally talking about that. Okay, so friends, thank you for listening all the way to the end of the Why Aren't You Famous podcast with me, Ellen Cherry, and
Andrew Grimm.
So you can find information about Andrew Grimm at www.junestar.com.
That is correct.
You can purchase his music at junestar.bandcamp.com.
That is right. And you can find Ellen Cherry at ellencherry.com. That's all lowercase Ellen Cherry, by the way.
Right.
She is now chair dancing. I'm just letting you guys know. There's been some coffee been consumed. You can also buy her music at ellencherry.bandcamp.com. And we just, as we're recording this, we got our website kind of configured.
Yeah.
And it's whyaren'tyoufamous.org.
Yep.
Is that where we're going?
Whyaren'tyoufamous.org.
So you will already know this by now because this is where you would probably have gotten that. But we'll also have exclusive content on our Bandcamp page that we have to set up as well.
Yeah.
And all that other stuff. So, you know, in the spirit of Garrison Keillor, go to some shows, would you?
Yeah. So come see us live.
Yep.
And come see us on this tour in March 2018.
Yep. March 2018 is going to be a good one. All right.
And don't forget it's not over until Ring My Bell.